Chapter 7: The Quiet Path. The Gilded Acorn had grown quiet as the games came to a close, and the last of the patrons trickled out, leaving the tavern echoing with only the crackle of the hearth. Elda Fenroot rose from her chair, her movements deliberate yet graceful for her age. The three adventurers, Roderic, Thorgar, and Shadowleaf, watched her, a silent understanding passing between them. The games had been fun, but it was clear that the real conversation was about to begin. Elda's eyes, sharp and full of secrets, lingered on them a moment longer before she spoke, her voice quiet yet steady. "Come, follow me. I have much to tell you, and I think it's time you knew what's truly at stake." Roderic nodded, his usual mischievous grin replaced by a more serious expression. "Lead the way, Elda. We're ready to listen." Thorgar's booming voice rang out with enthusiasm, despite the gravity of the moment. "A little walk, a little tea, and a story? Sounds like a fine night to me. Lead on, old woman." Shadowleaf, ever watchful, remained silent, her eyes narrowing slightly as she observed the old woman's every move. She said nothing, but her curiosity was piqued. The old woman shuffled toward the door, and the three adventurers followed in her wake. The door opened, allowing a cool breeze to rush in from the outside. The coldness of the night contrasted sharply with the warmth inside, but it only served to heighten the anticipation that hummed in the air. As they stepped out into the night, Elda led them through the narrow, cobbled streets of Briar's Hollow. The village had quieted down now, and the streets were mostly empty. The flickering lights from the occasional window were the only signs of life as they walked, their boots echoing softly against the stone. It wasn't long before they arrived at a modest stone cottage on the edge of town. It stood apart from the more ornate homes of the village's wealthier residents, its weathered stone walls covered in creeping ivy. The cottage had a warm, inviting feel to it, with soft light spilling from the windows. Elda opened the door with a creak, motioning for the adventurers to step inside. "Welcome to my home," she said softly, her voice almost reverent. "It may not be much, but it's mine." The inside of the cottage was humble yet cozy. A large hearth blazed at one end of the room, the fire casting flickering shadows across the walls. A few well-worn chairs were scattered around a sturdy wooden table, and shelves lined with jars of herbs, dried flowers, and old tomes filled the space. The smell of herbs and fresh bread lingered in the air, adding to the homely atmosphere. Elda gestured for the three of them to sit at the table, then busied herself with preparing a pot of tea. Her hands moved with practiced ease as she set about making the tea, her movement slow but deliberate. "You'll find no grandeur here," she said as she worked, "but I've always had a place for those who need a warm drink and some comfort." As the steam rose from the teapot, Elda set out cups for each of them and poured the tea with the care of someone who had done it 1,000 times before. Once the tea was ready, she sat down across from them, her eyes thoughtful as she looked at each of them in turn. "I know you're wondering what all of this is about," she began, her voice soft yet unwavering. "And I can see that you've earned my trust. So now, I will tell you everything." Elda took a long breath, as though gathering her thoughts, and then began her tale. "For years, Briar's Hollow has been a quiet, peaceful place. We've lived here on the edge of the world, tucked away in our little valley. But not long ago, things began to change. It started with the animals, cattle found dead, their throats torn, but with no sign of a predator. No wolf, no bear, no creature that might explain such violence. And then, there were the strange lights in the woods, flickering on the horizon like will-o'-the-wisps, but too bright, too wrong. Some of the townsfolk thought it was nothing more than superstition. But I knew better." She paused for a moment, her gaze shifting to the fire as if lost in thought. "I have lived long enough to know when the land is restless. And something ancient, something dark, has awakened in the mountains." Her voice dropped to a whisper, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop ever so slightly. "The woods are no longer safe. There are whispers of creatures, not just animals, moving through the trees. Something has risen from the depths, something forgotten for centuries. The adventurers listened intently, the weight of her words settling over them like a heavy blanket. Elda took another deep breath before continuing. I've tried to speak to the elders, but they're too set in their ways, too afraid of the unknown to take any action. They tell me I'm imagining things. But I know what I've seen. The land is sick, and it's spreading. If nothing is done soon, the darkness will spread beyond Briar's Hollow, across the valley, and into the other towns. It will consume everything in its path. Her eyes met each of theirs, her gaze steady. I've seen the signs. And I've seen you, too. I believe that you are the ones who can stop this. I'm not asking for you to fight blindly or without purpose, but I am asking for you to help me. This land is in peril, and I need help to set things right. Thorgar, who had been silently sipping his tea, leaned forward, his brow furrowed in thought. You want us to stop whatever it is that's causing all this trouble, huh? Sounds like a task for a few strong hands and a good blade. I'm in. Roderic, ever the strategist, tapped his fingers on the table, deep in thought. It's not just about strength, Thorgar. There's something more to this, something we can't see yet. We'll need to be clever about it. But if we're going to do this, we'll need to know everything you can tell us. Every detail counts. Shadowleaf, who had been quiet through most of the exchange, finally spoke. You're sure we can trust you? Her voice was sharp, calculating. This could be dangerous. We need to be sure we're not walking into a trap. Elda's eyes softened as she nodded. I understand your skepticism, Shadowleaf. You wouldn't have made it this far without it. But know this, I've seen the darkness, and it's real. I don't ask this lightly. You'll be risking your lives to protect a place you've never known. But I believe in you. I believe you can do it. The three adventurers exchanged glances. There was something in Elda's voice, a quiet conviction that resonated with them all. We'll do it, Roderic said finally, his voice steady. We'll take on your mission. But we'll need more than just words, Elda. We'll need maps, supplies, anything that will help us prepare. Elda nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. Of course. I will provide what I can. But be warned, this task will not be easy. The road ahead is fraught with danger. You'll need to rely on each other. Trust each other. As she finished speaking, the fire crackled louder, as though in agreement. Elda's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, a flicker of hope danced across her face. I'll help you as much as I can. But the rest is up to you. And with that, the adventurers knew they had made their choice. Their mission had begun.